Nothing short of treason? Seriously, Trump soliciting foreign election interference is even worse than you thought. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And this is not getting the headline treatment that I think, frankly, it should. It's a story that you'll find in the top 15 stories on most websites, but I don't think people are really understanding the story behind the story. You will recall, and I've talked about this many, many times on this program over the years, how back in 1791, during the George Washington administration, Washington went to Alexander Hamilton and said, okay, we got a country, we've got a constitution, how do we turn this into a prosperous country? And it took Hamilton 2 years. And in 1793, well, actually, I'm sorry, I got it back. It did take him 2 years. Washington gave him that commission in 1789. In 1791, Hamilton brought forward his work, his masterpiece. It was an 11-point plan called, Alexander Hamilton's Report on Manufactures. You can Google it. In fact, if you Google it with my name, you'll find a number of articles and a book I wrote about it. And it took Washington about 2 years, but by 1793, we had 30% tariffs on imported goods. We were subsidizing American manufacturers. We were making it very, very difficult for, the export of American raw materials. Very easy to import raw materials into the United States. So it was basically, like I said, an 11-point program. We've talked about it many times over the years on this program. And it stood until the Reagan administration. And it turned America into the industrial powerhouse of the world. And then, Nixon opened us to China, but Reagan really kicked the door open in a big way. Not only China, but also Reagan and Bush negotiated NAFTA. Bill Clinton signed it, but it was a Republican thing all along. So what happened, what's in the news this morning, is that Trump's trade guy, Peter Navarro, proposed that America should spend roughly $2 trillion to basically bring all our factories back home from China. And Mexico and Vietnam and pretty much every place else. But this would be a $2 trillion project. It would be massive. It would be successful. It would strengthen America's national security. Right now we can't build a cruise missile without chips we get from China. It would strengthen our domestic security. It would rebuild the American middle class. It would create an explosion in what could be very good paying jobs for American workers, what could be unionized jobs. And while all this seems to be exactly what Donald Trump campaigned on, it turns out his administration is opposed to it, which has everybody scratching their heads. Why would Trump tell Americans over and over and over again for 5 years that he wants to bring jobs home and then reject a reasonable effort to do that? Why? Is it because offshoring American jobs was always a Republican thing? As I mentioned, Nixon opened us up to China. Reagan and Bush negotiated NAFTA. The principal opposition to NAFTA was Democrats, people like Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders. Is that why? Is Trump just returning to Republican orthodoxy? Or is there some other reason why he doesn't want to do anything genuinely proactive about bringing jobs back to America? And if so, what could it be? Well, we get a clue in John Bolton's book. Seriously, it just puts it all in context. Consider Trump's opposition to bringing manufacturing jobs home on the one hand, and his request of President Xi of China that Xi help him get reelected in 2020, the same way he asked Putin to help him get reelected in 2016. Except the only difference is that when he asked Putin to help him get reelected, when he asked President Putin to help him, he did it in public. He said, Russia, if you're listening, we'd love to get those Hillary emails. And literally within hours, the servers got hacked and the emails, got leaked through WikiLeaks and all that kind of stuff. So Trump publicly asked Russia to help him, but it turns out he privately asked China too. And this is in John Bolton's new book. So he's hoping now, and it's fairly obvious, Trump is hoping that China will do this year what Russia did 4 years ago, mobilize their vast and extraordinarily competent and sophisticated internet capabilities and their economic power. China can do this even better than Russia. I mean, Russia wasn't going to buy $1 trillion worth of our exports. China can. China's got a much larger economy than Russia. So Donald Trump is basically saying to China, help me get reelected. Have a massive presence on the internet to trash Biden and help me, and buy a bunch of stuff from American farmers and things. And so that, therefore he's unwilling to risk upsetting China. And in fact, let me put a punctuation mark on this. Huawei, the Chinese telecom manufacturer, the Trump administration has been resisting letting Huawei into the United States because basically they seem to be a spying arm of the Chinese military. Well, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday, we had this total national brownout of T-Mobile for like a whole day. It should have been top headline all over the country. Well, that night, at the end of the day, around 6 p.m. that night, the Trump administration said, yeah, we'll let Huawei in. You think there's a link between the two? I mean, Trump is not only betraying our country and the values that underpin a democratic republic, but he's doing it to get reelected.